Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for August 3rd. Sorry, September 3rd. We're in September now. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I'm here today to update you on everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother 26 live feeds. It was day 49 in the house. And here I am on my own to update you on another wild day in the Big Brother 26 house, as we had another wild veto ceremony, as you may have surmised. So let's get straight into it. You can maybe ask some questions here at the end, and we'll talk through the day. So here's the board. Quinn, of course, is the HOH. He nominated Angela, Chemo, and Rubina for eviction. Leah then won the veto, and she felt inclined to use it on Angela. But Quinn was really pushing hard to try to prevent her from doing that. So Leah spent all night of the whole night of day 48 doing one-on-one conversations, talking through her options. She came to the conclusion that she kind of was leaning in the direction of using the veto on Angela, but Quinn didn't know what to do with the renom if that happened. So Quinn was pushing back pretty hard, saying, please don't use the veto. And it seemed as though, and according to Leah, it was, that Quinn had kind of talked Leah down a bit, that he had sort of taken her from leaning toward using the veto to at least neutral to maybe, okay, maybe there's a world where I don't use the veto. It seemed like that was where things stood at the end of day 48. However, Leah woke up on day 49 and chose violence because she was back toward leaning in the direction of maybe using the veto. And she was going back and forth. She wasn't sure. Now, something I did not mention yesterday on yesterday's update was that Leah did mention, and the reason I didn't mention it is because you never really know what this means, right? But Leah did mention that she felt like production wanted her to use the veto. She felt like in the diary room, they kind of want me to use it. Now, we've talked about this before. This could mean a number of things. She could be picking up on genuine feelings from the person that she's talking to, that person genuinely does kind of want her to go in that direction. She could also be reading into it, thinking that they feel that way. She could be making this up because she wants to do it and is using production as a strategy, essentially, by saying, they want me to do this. Ooh, sorry. There's a number of things that can cause these kinds of conversations. What this is not, to my knowledge, is production in the diary room being like, okay, Leah, we really want you to use the veto on Angela. So what can we offer you? Like, however, it's possibly relevant because it's definitely more sketchy when the feed's cut for a while in the morning before the veto ceremony. I mean, when that happens, it does look like you have something to hide. That is what I will say. Because, like, again, I am very much a person. I've talked to a lot of players. I've heard from a lot of people. The diary room is not like some secret manipulation device, right? There's a lot of explanations for the various ways in which people feel as though they can sometimes be leaning in a certain direction. But at the end of the day, like, this is Big Brother. Compared to basically any other reality show in existence, Big Brother has a smaller hand in the events that happen on their show than basically any other reality show in existence. They have the live feeds to keep them accountable. Anytime there's any hint of them even feeling a certain way about wanting a certain move to be made, they're going to talk about it on the feeds and we're going to hear about it, right? But if they cut the feeds, so anyway, the feeds were cut for a good portion of the morning. They finally came back after the veto ceremony. At which point we discovered, and let me also tell you, I will say this. Because the feeds cut so early. This is what I will say. When the feeds cut early and they were down for hours as opposed to the normal amount of veto ceremony time, I knew in my heart that we would come back to the result that we came back to. Based on what Leah had said the night before. That is what I felt. I just felt like the fact that the feeds had cut told me that veto was going to get used. And you know what? It was used. Leah uses the veto on Angela, and Quinn replaces Angela with Joseph. Joseph, now on the block against Chemo and Rubina. Whoo! Wild move. Wild move to put up Joseph here from Quinn. And you know, this kicks off a whole set of possibilities this week that could really be quite interesting. Now, feeds have come back. Joseph is on the block. Quinn cries afterward. Quinn really thought he had convinced Leah to not do this. Really did not want to put Joseph on the block. Really upset about this whole situation. Joseph is also pretty upset about the whole situation. He is now on the block, potentially going home. He thought he was doing well in the game. Afterwards, he talks to Angela, the person that he had not had a lot of time for before, saying, sorry, you're just going to have to win the AI arena. There's not much I can do for you. And he says, listen, the irony is not lost on me. I'm speaking to you now in the reverse position of where I was before. I'm going to take my own advice. I'm going to enjoy my time here. I'm going to do my best in the AI arena. And here we go. It was I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty funny. MJ spends her time post veto ceremony talking about how she was actually pretty nervous that she was gonna go up. She's really relieved that it ended up being Joseph. Not only is she relieved that it was Joseph, she's also pretty happy that it was Joseph. She's still pretty annoyed at Joseph for basically saying that he doesn't respect her game. And honestly, she says, he's just another Angela. He thinks he's so smart, but everyone knows that they can beat him in the end. Oh boy. For her part, Leah does her kind of typical at this point post-ceremony speech to everyone. Not everyone, but a group of people. I just wouldn't feel right if Angela left this week when it was in my ability to save her. And Angela's like, oh, Leah, you're so good. I love that you stood up for what you believe in. Leah's like, yeah, I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of myself. Um, Quinn does try to grab Cam and MJ after the ceremony. They talk about, like, okay, with Joseph now on the block, they need to decide which of Chemo or Rubina will be voted out, because we're not voting out Joseph, right, guys? And there's a little bit of discussion, but it's pretty clear that the lean is toward Chemo. But there's going to be more on that later. So, Leah then goes upstairs, does a little bit of blanketing, and talks to Joseph. So Leah's kind of like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Joseph. I didn't want this to happen. I didn't even know this was gonna happen. I was just, like, so focused on my own decision, and I just wanted to do something for me. I just wanted a jury vote. Oh, I'm so sorry, Joseph. I honestly, she was giving her speech, and I was thinking I was not gonna use it, and then I just did. I just used it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was watching this live on Twitch, and I was like, "Yeah, there's a good chance this is gonna work." I mean, obviously, Leah, Joseph. And right after I said that, Joseph replies, and he says, "Leah, I just want you to know that I love you, and nothing you do in a stupid game would ever change the way I feel about you." Same. Yeah. So, yeah, I think it worked. I think that happened. Um, he says, "Leah, I still have your best interests in mind. I hope I have your vote to stay." She says, "You absolutely do." She also does another thing that I think is clever if intentional, and it may be, it may not be. Either way, it's clever. Talks up how Quinn's so mad at me, though. Quinn's gonna be mad at me because, because unlike you, Quinn is gonna be mad at me, right? Like, my relationship with Quinn is gonna be he's gonna be mad. You're not mad, but he's gonna be mad. Um, Joseph, for his part, is a little back and forth on Quinn throughout the day. Um, Leah's gonna do this thing where she tries to, like, offset some of the upset that Joseph might have on Quinn as much as possible. And Quinn is trying to do the same, but listen, it's a losing battle here. Um, and Joseph is, like, not really mad at either of them, but kind of mad at both of them, but definitely starts being more mad at Quinn, but also gets it. There's a lot of complicated emotions. But from Joseph's perspective, he understands that Quinn had to do what he had to do, that he promised a lot of people that he wouldn't put them on the block because of the vote last week, and he was on the other side of that vote. And he also recognizes that he's held back a lot of information from Quinn. So he's not that mad, but he's also like, I'm on the block. It sucks. So Quinn talks to Rubina, and he talks about how he's upset. He's upset he had to make that decision. He's also upset that Angela's still going to be here. She's definitely going to be on the jury. He was so excited about her not being here anymore, and now she's here still, and she's going into rooms and talking to people. Ugh. He lets Rubina know that he wants her to stay. He really wants her to stay. And what that means is, with Joseph on the block, he's not going to lie to her. He doesn't want Joseph to go, which means he's going to basically be campaigning against Chemo. He says, I really felt hurt and betrayed by Chemo because of everything that's happened in the game. He outed my power to Tucker. He, like, blew up our alliance. He flipped on me with your vote and didn't give me a heads up. He didn't tell me about 5 points. Like, consistently throughout the game, he has just not prioritized me, and I prioritized him in so many ways, and I feel really hurt by that. Please don't tell him this, but, like, that's how I feel. And Rubina says, "Listen, I get it. I do want you to know, like, Chemo did do a lot of work to protect you with Tucker." He says, "I get that, but, like, for me, between the 2 of you, like, it makes sense that you would have chosen Tucker over me, right? Like, that I get that. It just hurts that Chemo did it too. It hurts that Chemo would have made that call when I was prioritizing Chemo and he was prioritizing Tucker." Um, so he says, "So that's why I'm now, like, wanting Chemo out, and I want you to stay." And he understands that she might want to retaliate and target him. It makes logical sense, but he hopes that she doesn't. And she says, "Honestly, Quinn, genuinely, I don't even if it does make sense, I don't plan to. I don't really want to." And I will not tell T-Core and Chemo about this conversation. I'm really happy that we finally had a chance to talk. Um, this is a great conversation from Rubina. Uh, and for what it's worth, she does not end up talking about this, to my knowledge, yet. Might have been that she just didn't have a chance. She might have forgotten, like Leah. But she didn't actually like go into a lot of detail about this. I mean, she's been actively, yeah, because she's been actively trying to um repair the relationship between Quinn and T-Core. And obviously, like this knowledge would really maybe damage a little bit of that. So um, I think she does well here, and I kind of believe her. I think that like, if there's 3 nominees, maybe you need to throw Quinn up there, but like Rubina has always been somebody that has been pretty forgiving of Quinn. The problem is, I think for Rubina when it comes to Quinn's perception is that she had, like, the strongest reaction to his power being outed, and I think he still remembers that because, like, that's so not representative of who she seems to be as a person. She seems to be so forgiving, but, like, she was the one person who seemed to actually care about the power other than Tucker, and so I think he still feels, like, a little burned from that. Um, so interesting stuff there. Quinn's also, of course, gonna talk to Leah. Now she's gotta do some more damage control here. She made the move. Everyone's okay with it, but obviously Quinn was very much like, "Please don't do this." So she goes to Quinn. "Quinn, I'm so sorry. Oh, I can tell you hate my guts. I know it. I know it. I know you hate me. Like, I don't hate you. You don't? Oh, oh, are you sure?" So I'm just confused. I just felt like we talked about this. Oh man, it was just a last minute decision, you know? I just wasn't sure if that was if it was even gonna happen. I just did it, you know? He's like, "Well, do you want Joseph out?" Like, she's like, "No, no, no, I didn't even want him on the block. I didn't even know it was gonna happen." He's like, "Leah, I told you it was gonna happen." Like, "Oh, I didn't remember. I mean, I wasn't sure it was gonna happen, you know?" Um, it's like, "Well, listen, Leah, we might need your vote to keep Joseph because I don't know if Angela's gonna vote to keep him. And obviously T-Core and whoever of Rubina and Chemo stay, like they're not gonna keep him. And this is true, right? If we look at these votes, if Chemo or Rubina wins the AI arena, there are 7 votes. Um, you need 4 to win the day, right? So T-Core, whoever wins AI arena, Chemo or Rubina, that's 2 votes against Joseph. If they can swing Angela, that's 3. That's 3 of 7. They need one more vote. If they had Leah, they could take out Joseph, just like that. Now, why would Leah want Joseph out when he says, "I love you, and nothing you could do could ever change how I feel about you"? Um, there's probably not a lot of incentive for her to go in that direction. But the point is that they only really need one vote, potentially. So that's what Quinn's concerned about. He's wondering if Leah wants Joseph out. She says, "No, I do not want Joseph out. I am voting to keep Joseph." He says, "Leah, you shattered my heart today." She says, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I promise. I think this can work out for us." He's like, "I don't think so, but listen." I mean, just so you know, I did already tell Joseph that you did know he would go on the block because I did tell you. And she's like, "What? But I just meant that like I didn't know for sure because I kind of, I kind of forgot about it that we had that I didn't remember that exact conversation." Leah really is fond of the "I don't recall" argument. And hey, it's been working for her. Well, it didn't exactly work for her with Tucker, but when her audience is Joseph and Quinn, it seems to work okay. Um, although I would say Quinn is not like believing her like super a lot, but um, he says, "Man, I was like, I was like bragging about how I had the first HOH where the veto wasn't used. I was going to talk about my Quinfluence. Now is Joseph gonna be loyal to us anymore, or is he gonna be mad? Like, what are we doing?" Um, she's like, "No, Joseph's gonna be fine. Don't worry about Joseph." So, just like that, listen, the damage control is done. I mean, there's still some work to be had, some work to be done, some conversations to be had, but Leah gets away with this, as we knew she would, and Quinn knows too. He says, "I'm stupid. She literally asked me if I'd be mad, and I said no." And really, that is correct. Like, Quinn has nobody to blame but himself because he has made it so clear. He literally, out of nowhere, said this.
Thoughts?
You're sick nasty. You're incredible.
I won't make you listen to the whole thing, but like, when you do that when you're like, "Hey, you're sick nasty, you're incredible, you look good in yellow, I love your smile, you're so nice," the word sensational comes to mind. I just think you're so great. You know, the behavior. You are giving her permission to walk all over you. And she is. You can't blame her. And he doesn't. Um so they both talk to Joseph. Quinn tells Joseph, "I'm not going to rest until I make sure we have the votes locked down for you. I think Chemo is the easier person to campaign against, the easier person to push against here." Now, I think that this is in part aimed toward like between Chemo and Rubina, but I don't think this is the right approach here. Um, like I think Quinn is thinking like, "Okay, it's easier to campaign you versus Chemo. Let's focus the campaign there." But at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. The AI arena will decide who Joseph is up against if Joseph is up against anybody. If Joseph loses the AI arena and therefore stays on the block, he will be up against either Chemo or Rubina, depending on which of them wins the arena. not which of them is easier to beat in the vote. And so if they focus their campaign on one person and let the other person feel like, oh, well, people don't want this person to go, you're leaving things wide open for Joseph to be up on the block against the person that you haven't been campaigning against. And that's kind of dangerous. Because if we go over these votes again, real quick, if everyone's down to take out Chemo, great. That's great, right? Joseph versus Chemo. Chemo's gone. Joseph stays. But what happens if Chemo wins the AI arena like he did in week 1? Joseph versus Rubina now. There might be some more hesitancy. Leah wanted Chemo out, didn't as much want Rubina out. Chelsea, MJ, they've been talking about going along with this women's alliance thing, how it could be beneficial to their games. They're also both not fans of Joseph. What does it benefit them to vote out Rubina over Joseph, ruining the ability to use that women's alliance to their advantage? There's at least an argument there, right? It's a little dangerous. So what they really need to be doing is focusing on making sure the campaign is against both Rubina and Chemo. That the campaign is they need to be split up. You can't let that trio remain in the game. And I think they'll get there, but the possibility is open. There are different ways that this could go. So they both apologize, Quinn and Leah. Sorry, we're sorry, Joseph, we're sorry. He tells them he has nobody else in this house but them. After Leah leaves, Quinn makes it clear to Joseph again. He says, listen, just so you know, Leah did explicitly know. I told her that you would go up on the block. If she's trying to tell you she did not know, that is not true. Joseph is like, oh, I don't know. I think that she probably would just, I think she just had the veto and she just wanted to use it. She just had a thing and she wanted to use it and she must have forgotten about that conversation. Leah talks to Angela. They talk privately. Angela thanks her again. She says, Leah, you have 2 votes now. I will vote with you wherever you want to go. If you feel strongly, I will be with you. We'll see how long Leah can keep Angela locked in. I think Tucker has the current record. The current Angela record is held by Tucker. I believe he had her for 2 weeks. Pretty good. World record. We'll see if Leah can break it. So the feeds go down for the Labor Day party. So they're going to be down for a little while. When they come back up, house guests, they're a little tipsy. They've been hanging out. They've been partying. And notably, one of the big storylines through the night is that perhaps because they're a little bit tipsy, perhaps because things are just moving in this direction, Cam and MJ, I mentioned this yesterday, a little cuddly. Cam and MJ being a little cuddly, having some hair strokes, having some back strokes, not the swimming kind. And this is not going unnoticed in a few different ways. In one way, it's not going unnoticed because it's becoming clear to people like Quinn, like most people in the house, that MJ, Cam, and Chelsea are a bit of a trio. Um, they have been a bit of a trio. They are now publicly seeming like a trio. Um, more and more. And that's not the greatest thing for them. Uh, in addition to that, I talked about how T-Core was upset at MJ for flirting, cuddling with Cam when she knows how Chelsea feels about him. But that I hadn't seen a lot of response from Chelsea herself yet. Well, that has changed. Chelsea did not seem pleased last night. Um, on top of the flirting and such, there was a lot of also like scandalous conversation about various things. And there was a lot of focus, a lot of looks, a lot of, you know, attention. Chelsea was paying attention to the attention Cam was giving MJ, right? There were a few moments in particular where she felt seemed quite annoyed at the situation. Um, and then, wouldn't you know it, coincidentally, Chelsea Cam talks are back, and she's ranting about Cam's hygiene again. And she's talking about how, if people don't see my value, that's on them. That's on them. And once again, T-Core also is upset at MJ or Chelsea. So there's a lot of drama happening, but it's still pretty, like, it's not out in the open. It's a lot of like under the surface drama, under the surface tension. And this is not great if you are Chelsea, MJ, or Cam. It's bad for all three of them because they kind of have a good thing going. And if this does get in the way of game, that would not be ideal, right? Uh Not only could it potentially break them up if Chelsea turns on MJ, or if, she turns on Cam, or if it's just like kind of ruins their strategic relationship, but it's also already impacting them because, and this is not on Chelsea, this is more on MJ and Cam, but like the two of them being so openly flirty is starting to put more of a target on all three of them, Chelsea, MJ, and Cam. Um, and so something, again, I pointed it out yesterday because I felt like it might have some relevance. It is already continuing to have relevance. It has not significantly impacted the game yet, but been there has been some movement in that direction, and it could get more and more significant over time, or this could be a one-off. They were a little tipsy. It might simmer down from here, but it's definitely not great. So keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, Joseph is going to do some campaigning through the night. He talks to Cam. He asks where people are with the vote. Cam says he thinks that everyone wants him to stay. Joseph's happy to hear about that. He asks Cam, and again, this is, I didn't even intend for this, but this is a perfect example of what I was talking about. Joseph asks Cam, "Hey, can you keep putting a good word in for me with Chelsea and MJ?" Because they're a trio, and that's how Joseph sees it. Cam talks to Rubina, and I did like this from Cam and Rubina. They discuss how they haven't really talked much game before, but they really like each other, and they should be talking more game because they really like each other. They haven't been talking as much as they should, and they should start talking more. And you know what? It's never too late. So good on them. Joseph does say to the cameras, "Man, this sucks. I was screwed over by the two people I trusted the most, and they can't even get their story straight." He does later talk about, though, he does appreciate his time in the house. He knows he kept a lot of information from Quinn and Leah in the past. Um, and he's just grateful that he had a chance to play and that he was picked to play and so on and so forth. He's feeling a little like this might be the end, and it's not that far from the truth. He does talk to Quinn again. They talk through Chemo versus Rubina. Joseph tries pushing Rubina a little bit. Cam mentions that he thinks that it's going to be Chemo when Cam joins them. But there's also a lot of talk about Leah throughout the night. Um, and and this was so telling to me. Uh, so much talk about Leah's decision with the veto. Nobody was really upset about it. In fact, a lot of people are talking about how they respect Leah more for having made the decision. And I think that this is such a great example of something that I talk about a lot because there's this notion that part of Big Brother is having to like make the safe decision and fit in and not piss people off. When the reality is that making a bolder choice and pushing for what you want and asking for forgiveness afterward is often the better choice. Because not only do you get what you want instead of what somebody else wants, but people are usually not even that mad at you. I mean, it depends on how you handle it, obviously. You need to handle the fallout well. And you need to be somebody that they are willing to respect. But like, you can have your cake and eat it too in this house. You can do the thing that benefits you and then be respected and liked more for it. And that is the best way to play. If you are constantly like giving up your pieces and making decisions that aren't good for your game, you will often get the worst of both worlds. You will have other people benefiting from your actions. And then, in addition to that, people won't respect you or like you for it. Keep that in mind. Play this game. Um, so Joseph campaigns some more. He talks to Chelsea. Chelsea said, "I don't think anyone's against you." She says she's not sure which of the two between Chemo and Rubina she'd lean toward, but she's pretty non-committal in this conversation. Now Chelsea, for what it's worth, has talked to Rubina already. Has talked to like basically the trio and let them know that she's on their side. She talked to T-Core, but she also told Quinn and them that she was keeping Joseph. So Chelsea keeping her options open, I would say, at the moment. Um, Joseph tries campaigning to T-Core himself, but she basically gives him nothing. Also, she says she'll need to talk to more people before she can really commit to anything. He says he understands that she's in a tough position. He's hoping that he can get T-Core's vote by basically saying like the votes aren't there anyway, just stack it on. Um, so Rubina and T-Core, they do talk about Joseph. Rubina feels bad for him. Joseph's kind of woe is me approach since being nominated has been fairly effective. People are like, he deserves it. But like, I guess this is what I'll say. I think that what's happening with Joseph is that like he is taking it and 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 I'm talking about how he's like, oh man, my friends betrayed me. But I want to make it clear. He's also saying like I deserve this. And I think that's important because I think that a lot of people in the house were very upset with Joseph. They were all kind of turning on Joseph. And now he's on the block, and it feels to them, I think, like they're getting their pound of flesh. Joseph is like, "Oh, I'm hit. You have hit me. I am wounded. I am humbled. The irony is not lost on me. I deserve this." Oof. And him taking it like that, I think, has been good for him so far. It's very early days. But, like, it's making them feel like, "Yeah, we got what we needed from him. We don't need to punish him further by evicting him." He's not still being like, "Oh, well, obviously I'm gonna stay because 'cause I'm amazing, and I would have the votes, and I have such a great social game," or whatever the case may be. He's not saying, "How dare you all? I never like, I am the best. Like, who could dare betray me?" He's like, "You know what? Yeah, okay. This sucks. I The 2 people that I trusted the most put me up. That's fine, I guess. I mean, I do deserve it." Like, he has been humbled for now, but the humbling is good for him for many reasons, obviously. And Tikor and Rubina feel a little bad for him, even though they're still going to try and vote him out, obviously, from their perspective, especially. There's, of course, a lot of conversation between Tikor, Rubina, and Chemo. A lot of planning for who they want to talk to, who they want to align with, how they're going to get votes. What they actually end up doing is often so much less than what they talk about, though. So we'll keep that summarized. Um, Joseph also campaigns to Angela. Notably, she asks him, "How do you feel about Quinn?" And he says, between the two of them, he doesn't feel great about Quinn anymore. And I think there's some truth to this. He's later going to talk to Leah about it as well. But I think there's also truth to the fact that he says he understands and that he doesn't really have anyone else anyway. Um, Quinn, Joseph, and Leah do talk together. They see this as a good opportunity to make it seem like they're not that close, and that the three of them should stick together. Um, Quinn talks to Joseph specifically about how Quinn sees the house in threes. And this structure that he talks about is what what everyone is starting to look at. Um, so what Quinn means by that is you have obviously the trio, Tikor, Chemo, Rubina. Then you have the new trio, MJ, Chelsea, and Cam. And then Quinn sees that they have a bit of their own trio, himself, Joseph, and Leah. That is how Quinn sees the game, with Angela kind of hanging out, right? And Leah feeling like she's got Angela and pull Angela, and that Angela could be essentially an extra number for them. Um, Now, with all of this veto ceremony drama, people aren't really looking at Quinn, Leah, and Joseph in the same way that they're looking at Tikor, Chemo, Rubina, or Chelsea, Cam, and MJ. Um, they could maybe look at it as like they were looking at Quinn and Leah because they were hanging out so much, but then Leah uses this veto, and now they're not sure, but now they're hanging out again a lot. They were looking at Quinn and Joseph, but then he just put them on the block, and so they're not sure about that. They're obviously now looking at Leah and Angela, but when you have trios out there, they are a little more visible. They are a little more threatening potentially. Or at least that's all theoretical. Like, it doesn't take into account the actual relationships going on in the house. So, just worth pointing out there, that is sort of how Quinn is looking at the game, and he would love for the three of them to be able to essentially play the other two trios against each other. I'm not sure how effective they can be there, though. Um, so Joseph and Leah talk more. She still feels bad. He says she'll still have her back. She again is gonna like kind of try to get him to be more angry at Quinn than her, and he does kind of go in that direction. He's not really sure how he feels about Quinn. He's like, it was kind of like a wuss move to put him up on the block. He could have been bolder. But I think this is mostly fine though. It really is like, where else does Joseph have to go anyway? Quinn and Leah talk some more. Again, they hang out late into the night again. And it's just, more of Leah reinforcing their relationship, and they're fine. And they talk about plans for the future, and like who to put up and so on and so forth. Um, and again, Tikor, Chemo, and Rubina are going to talk more. They talk about their plans for the week. They obviously want to find a way to get out Joseph, and keep Chemo and Rubina. They think maybe they could get Angela and Leah as votes. They talk about that possibility. Tikor also mentions that they could maybe try and get Chelsea. Um, and Rubina keeps working on Tikor, to try to get her to like talk to Quinn more. And Tikor has been budging on the Quinn issue. Specifically, I think with the push of Rubina. Tikor says, he does make it hard to stay mad at him. Because he cried after he put up Joseph, and they're kind of feeling for him a little bit, that he did make that decision. And she said, I can at least be grateful that he didn't put me on the block. So there has been a little bit of a softening. She still does not agree with his decision making. She still does not like what he did this week, but and she still doesn't think he can win the game with their jury votes. But she might need to be a little like, again, softer in the approach to Quinn. She may need to think about, like, do we need to work a little more closely with Quinn than we would want to? We're not sure at this point. So uh some interesting direction potentially there. But as of right now, here are where things stand. Chemo, Joseph, and Rubina on the block. Chemo right now is the primary target. If Chemo is up against Rubina or Joseph right now, Chemo gets voted out. That could easily change because there's still plenty of momentum in the Joseph direction. And there are some arguments that could be made against Rubina, but Rubina has been doing very well with her campaign so far. Chemo, not so much. So Rubina has some supporters, which means it might be very interesting if Chemo ends up winning the AI arena and it's Rubina versus Joseph. That's where things get a little more interesting because Chelsea, Mackenzie, Cam, they may go in the direction of keeping Rubina. They have better relationships with Rubina than they do Joseph right now. At least two of them do. And Cam is starting a relationship with Rubina potentially. And so that could be where things get a little dicey for Joseph. And then again, just in general, there's, if the Quinn, Leah, Joseph trio starts to become a little more obvious, that alone could lead in that direction. Now, the problem with all of this is that in order for Chelsea, Cam, and MJ to flip their votes, they will need to betray Quinn. And unlike Leah, I'm not sure they can do that without like having Quinn after them. So is it worth it to burn Quinn to keep Rubina around or Tico or Chemo around, keep this other trio around? Because what if they do see the house in trios, right? And you say, hey, we're voting to keep Rubina and or Chemo. We're going to keep this trio intact and betray Quinn and potentially Leah, and take out Joseph. Well, now you have potentially Quinn, Leah, and Angela against you. And Tikor, Chemo, and Rubina get to sit back and enjoy the fight between the other two trios. Does that make sense? Not that Angela would be with Quinn, but obviously Leah would jump ship. Let me tell you, she would jump ship, but she would jump ship probably to Tikor, Chemo, Rubina. Like, why not? It just kind of outs you as the power player. There's not a lot of reason for them to do it. If you're Cam and Chelsea, at least, or sorry, if you're Cam and MJ, at least. If you're Chelsea, there's some reason because the same is true in the other direction. If Chelsea actively votes out Rubina or Chemo over Joseph, what does that do to her relationship with Tikor and the remaining other player, especially when Joseph is not a pro-Chelsea player in the first place. He's also not a pro-Chelsea person on the jury, which means that getting Joseph out would be kind of great for Chelsea in the pre-jury. So there's a lot of what I'm saying is there's a lot of arguments you can make in both directions, all directions. And because of that, I can see this moving in a few different ways. As of right now, things are locked in the chemo direction, but who knows? There's plenty of days left, and and different people are in different kinds of tight spots. So we will have to wait and see what happens with this vote. Do we have any questions here as we wrap this up? Let's see. Who would I want to get HOH next? It depends on who is evicted. Was this really a last minute decision for Leah, or did she always plan on using the veto? I believe it was more last minute. I think she was always leaning toward using it. I think she was maybe a little bit talked out of it, but then when the decision, was it as last minute as she's claiming? Maybe not, but I do think she was genuinely back and forth on it. Because here's the thing about the decision: I like the decision to use the veto. I don't like that she waited so long to make the call and surprised Quinn with it. I think that I think that like the ideal scenario here for Leah was that Quinn puts up T-Core or something. It's not great for Leah that Joseph is on the block because now she had to do damage control with Joseph too, which she was fine to do. But this move backfires if Joseph leaves this week. Joseph is a number for Leah. And if Joseph leaves, that puts her in a not a bad spot, but like it's ideal for her if Joseph stays. And so if she had been able to communicate with Quinn more about like, hey, I'm just straight up using this veto, and you shouldn't put Joseph up on the block because he might go home, and that would be terrible for your HOH. Like, what are you thinking? Like talk to Quinn more about who the replacement nom would be. I think beforehand might have been a better play. I still really like the move, though. I still think it was the right call. Just might have been optimized a little better to prevent the potential downside of Joseph ending up leaving, if that's a possibility. Does it benefit T-Core for chemo to leave this week? Not particularly. I wouldn't say so. How do I view Quinn's win equity? Is there a world where he could win if he makes the final two? There's absolutely a world where he could win. But this week has not been great for him, I will say, for win equity. I would say prior to this week, I was feeling like right after the Tucker eviction, I was like the highest on Quinn I've been in a while. This week, moving back down a little bit in terms of win equity, especially with the T-Core stuff. Who would T-Core vote for between Chemo and Rubina? I think she would probably, she doesn't decide who gets evicted between the two of them. I don't think she's going to push super hard in either particular direction. What is my educated guess on how the votes would go between Rubina and Joseph? I mean, as of right now, I think it's the same as Chemo versus Joseph. The question becomes, what happens if Chelsea, Cam, and MJ flip? At which point the votes pile on to Joseph over Rubina. Are any of the nominees confident they can win AI Arena? Not particularly. I think it's a fairly even matchup at this point. If Joseph gets through the week, how realistic is it for Leah to take a power position in the game? It's very realistic. I mean, Leah just straight up has Quinn and Joseph, the two of them. And also having Angela means that she has a loose group of 4 who basically will all prioritize her over everyone else. Sorry if you can hear the truck outside my window. And that she could probably beat any of those people as well. Like, that's a pretty decent spot to be in. And she's not being looked at as a target. That group is not being looked at as a target. So There's definitely a lot of pluses to her game if she's able to keep Joseph around. Um, if Leah wants to keep Joseph over Chemo this week, does Angela have an issue with that? I don't think so. I think that Angela is currently under the Leah spell. And that's a very good thing for Leah. How long will it work? This is Angela we're talking about. But we'll see. I think that Leah is making a case to be the front runner right now. It just depends on how this week plays out. Um, because I can see a very good path for her, and she's been playing very well lately, in general. Um, who's doing a good job at jury management? I mean, right now, Leah, I think using that veto, I think has helped her a lot. Um, apart from that, I do think Cam has done good jury management. I think that he's very likable. I say that, but then the MJ stuff has not been great for him. So let me kind of reverse that. That I think he was doing good, but this MJ Cam thing is I don't think they're doing anything on purpose. I think they're just chilling, but I don't think they realize the impact that's having on players like Chelsea and Leah or Chelsea and T-Core. Um, I do think Chelsea has a great shot at the end as well, of course, and obviously T-Core if she makes it. Um, any chance we could have a 5-person jury? I don't think so. I don't think so. Is there a path to the end for everyone, or have some blown their chance? I mean, the chance of Angela winning are still so low, in my opinion. Um, and I think that Joseph is probably not too far behind at this point. But Joseph could win this AI arena and then get his head back in the game and change things up, whereas Angela has a more consistent track record of being a little bit of a wild card. It doesn't mean Angela can't win, but she's probably at the bottom of the list right now. Can Quinn get back in T-Core's good graces if Chemo gets evicted this week? I think it will take a while. It's not impossible though. But it's especially bad that he like can't be in power again. Um, all right. Let's see. Any other questions? Is leaving T-Core and her trio in the jury too dangerous for the other players? It's not dangerous if you think that she's going to be voting for you. It's great if you think she's a vote for you. You could just pretty much like use that to steal a win. Who's the best placed trio? I mean, right now it's Chelsea, Cam, and MJ. It's just feeling like that might start to shift in another direction depending on the result of this week. Okay, I think that's what we've got. I think that's enough. All right, so thank you all so much for hanging out with me today. I will be back tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 26 live feeds, including what's going on with this vote. If anything changes, I will let you know. We will also be live tonight with the roundtable. We'll rate these players, and you can of course give your own opinion on the various things going on in the week, season as a whole, and rate the players yourself with the Stockwatch survey I will send out on Twitter later after this podcast ends. The slop is also going to be live tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern, looks like. So stay tuned for that as well if you are a patron of the podcast. And then tomorrow night, live on Twitch, watching the episode, come hang out with me. We'll be here to recap it all. And there it is. So thank you all so much for joining me here on this solo update today. And I will see all of you next time.